So, if you watch my previous I Switched to iPhone series, you would know that I am currently using the iPhone 6S. And what I said at the end of that video series was that as soon as I can, my next phone was going to be a new Android phone. And I decided to keep using the iPhone 6S for a while longer because it was going to be losing long-term support soon because the next version was likely not going to include it, which it did not. And at the time, I knew that the next big wave of Android phones was about a few months away, as most of them get released in that sort of October to December Christmas holiday season. And so I decided to pick up my new phone. So let's see what I got. What I decided to get as my next new phone is the Google Pixel 7. Was just released about 2 days ago as of here. And I figured I would give you my sort of first impressions today. So as you can see, I went with the white, or I believe it's called the snow color version. Apparently it's not cool to just use the name of the color anymore. They have, like, snow is the white. I think it's lemon green, or lemon glass maybe. Or lemongrass, I believe, is the sort of like yellowish color, yellow-green color version. And instead of just calling the last one black, they call it obsidian. And I was actually originally going to go with that color, but then when I went down to the store to sort of, hold the phone, get a feel for it, and see if I really liked it, the white one really sort of spoke to me in its sort of new design, as just about every phone is just a black rectangle. So I decided to switch it up with the Pixel 7 and get a white one. So in the box, you get the phone, as you can see first. Obviously, then you get a Type-C to Type-C charging connector, USB-C to USB-A adapter, and this little instruction manual. So first I'll talk about the purchasing process over here, because it's not quite the same as in America. But here it's a little bit more involved, as I had to buy it through some company that made me make an account with them. Here, you normally get a sort of like present when you make a big decision. For example, a bank would usually give you like a towel or something. I got a few packs of towels when I made my bank here. For the Pixel, they gave me a Chromecast for free, so I thought that was pretty nice. Now for the Pixel. Okay, so I just went through the Pixel setup. I actually didn't know this, but you can actually copy all of your data from an iPhone. That's actually what the Type-C to Type-A connector was for, was to set up the, was for setup. But, goodbye iPhone. Now I got the new hotness. So, for the first impressions, the screen is gorgeous. It is a huge improvement over anything I have ever used before. I jumped up several versions of Android from what I used before. As I said, the previous version I used was Android 9. So this is already a huge change. I see they added quite a few features that I did not know were in there. For example, there's a built-in screen recorder now, so that is pretty nice. Okay, so let's talk about the feel of the Pixel. Now, the way that Google was able to get the transition from the back of the case to the side is very clean. They actually replaced the camera bar with a sort of one cut of aluminum across the side, so it looks very clean and very smooth on it. As far as the bar, it's very different, but I think I might like it more than a bump. For example, when I hold the thing with one hand, when I hold the Pixel, you can see that I kind of instinctively have a finger pressed right up against the bar for like extra support. And it actually feels really good with that, because The Pixel 7 is quite a bit heavier than any phone I've used before, so having that little support right there feels nice. And another thing about the camera bar is when you put the phone flat on a table or something, it doesn't wobble at all. It's completely flat with the table, which is a problem you get with most phones when they have the camera bump in a corner of the screen. You'll find that when you put the phone flat, it'll sort of wobble on the two corners opposite the camera bump. Or why did I go for the Pixel 7? And the reason was I actually have been debating between the Pixel 6 and the Samsung at the time of finishing the iPhone series. And the iPhone or the Pixel 6 looked really good. Besides, I would see some like videos, particularly from Marques Brownlee, I believe is how you say the name, where he talked about some bugginess that he was having with his old Pixel. So I was gonna hold out, but there was also another reason I wanted to hold out on and see the next version of the Pixel, and that was because the current Pixel was a first introduction of Google's new Tensor Core processor. And what I have seen usually when there is a new piece of tech is that the second generation is normally a very large improvement over the first generation. The biggest example here is with the Pixel's Tensor cores. The new cores are more powerful and more efficient than last gen by a large margin, much more than a typical generation. So that was why I waited for the 7, and from what I can see, the huge improvements are with Google's AI processing. The Tensor cores, or the like special magic you could kind of view it, is not with just brute force CPU or graphics processing in the same way you see with most Snapdragon processors. What you get are the Tensor cores. That's what you're buying this for. So what do the Tensor cores do? Well, they accelerate machine learning or AI processing. And that is really useful for Google's photography, photo, and video processing. Google has been with one of the best imaging processing companies on smartphones for a while. The machine learning gives you access to Google's transcription, voice recognition in there, with the Recorder app. And I've heard some things. I'll actually test it here with the screen recording. So one thing I've heard about the Google Pixel is how good the transcription is. So you can apparently hit record and it will automatically record and transcribe everything you say with very high accuracy. And if you actually have two people talking in a conversation, it will actually recognize the two speakers and separate them into different speech boxes so that you can follow who is who, and you can even name the person so that it'll automatically say, you know, James said this, Steve said this, and it will automatically do all of that for you. And so I will throw on the recording of everything I just said. It looks like it missed the first word from when I just hit record and was speaking mid-start. But it looks like besides that, it is going pretty well. As far as the price, the Google Pixel nails the price as far as I can tell. They have their A series, which are the budget $300-400 price range versions. You have the base model of the Pixel 7, which is $599, and if you upgrade it, it's a storage to 256 from the base's 128. It costs $699, and that's already undercutting most of the flagship models, though of course Samsung also has a budget version. And if you were to go for the Pro, it starts quite a bit higher, but I'll have to put the price here because I forget at the moment. But you get some fancy tech with that extra price. You get an extra camera, a telephoto lens, I believe, with higher zoom. That also has some fancy tech of using 2 camera sensors to increase the sharpness of the first photo. The other thing about the Google Pixel 7 is that the camera is supposed to be fantastic. And so what I would like to show off just for this video, because this is not a full review, this is just a first impressions, is the photos they show of it is that you can take a picture of like a city setup or something like that, and you can use they call it the magic eraser, which uses the AI processing to automatically remove and fill in certain subject things. And so for just today, as a quick demonstration, I would like to take a picture of a wooden table I have, to have the wooden texture underneath as a sort of template for how well the image processing is. And what I'll do is I'll take one picture that is raw with nothing on it of just the table, and then I'm going to put some items on the table and use the magic eraser and see if it can erase them and fill in the texture of the table well. So let's give that a try. So that is all for this initial preview unboxing of the Google Pixel 7. Stay tuned because I do plan on releasing a review after I have had time to use it and fully experience the Google Pixel. Besides that, thank you all for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.